YouTubers, gamers, and moviegoers, what's going on, guys? I'm the Messiah. This is Messiah Entertainment, and today we are reviewing Runaways Season 1. Now, this is based off the popular comic book series Runaways by Marvel Comics, and you may remember this, but I was kind of excited when we first found out we were getting a Runaways TV show. Now, a few months later, and what do we hear? Runaways is coming to Hulu! It was sort of something that I thought Marvel should have done for a long time. There was actually a movie that was being planned at one point, but because of Avengers and how big that was, and then they went into the phases in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, you know, everything kind of got forgotten about that until now. Now, the show was released on Hulu. You know, I just finished through Season 1. Now, there is a lot to talk about, both good and bad. Now, as always, I think we should start off with the good, the things that I liked about the show. And one thing that I really wanted to keep in mind while watching this show is that this wasn't the comic book, and that it didn't have to be the comic book. And, you know, because unlike with other shows like Daredevil and Luke Cage, I wasn't really, you know, so closely linked to those shows' source material. I didn't really read too many Luke Cage or Daredevil comic books. I don't really know too much about the Defenders as a team. This one is something I intimately know. It's probably one of my most favorite comic books of all time. And, you know, when I heard that this thing was coming out, I was super excited, but I was also super cautious of, like, you know, they really have to do this sort of thing right. You know, it kept my head on a bit of a swivel, I guess. Now, starting off with the things that I do like, for the most part, the casting. The casting was pretty solid, and when I say that pretty solid, I mean mostly on the children. Four people that I think they got perfectly 100% hit right on the right on the dot. Gert, Carolina, Alex, and Nico. I thought they nailed those castings 110%. If I was expecting to see live action versions, the realistic versions of those characters from the comic books, these guys would probably pop into mind. They casted them very well, both for look and for personality. How the writing goes is here and there, but in terms of how I think they portrayed the characters and the acting, I thought they did a phenomenal job. The other kids, namely Chase and Molly. Now, for Molly, she's different all around. You know, different race. Her parents in this one have a different relationship with her. Quick warning, this is going to be filled with spoilers, so if you haven't seen the show, go back and watch it and come back here. Molly's parents actually, unlike in the comic books, die, and she's actually Gert's stepsister. And that's an interesting dynamic in and of itself, but Molly's character just as a whole is very different from the comic book iteration. The comic book iteration seems like she's much younger, and I think they even reference that kind of here, where you could still sort of feel, though, that Molly is younger than the rest of the group. She's not exactly 10, 11, 12 like she probably is in the comic book, but she does have this sort of like youngness to her that the rest of the team doesn't really have. It does change things that she's so close in age to everybody else, but you know, I still feel like the actress did a great job with the show and the characters, so that wasn't too much of a problem. The biggest one that I was really confused with upon even just first seeing him was Chase. They really went, I feel like personally, in a different direction for the character. While I feel like the one in the comic book was sort of like a punk rocker, sort of like, you know, doesn't listen to the rules sort of guy, I didn't get that feeling from this one. This one, you know, he was kind of like a full-on jock, and, you know, he didn't really seem like he disobeyed his father, like, ever. His father was abusive, but I don't know, it just didn't strike me as much like anything like the Chase from the original comic book. He did kind of grow on me as time went on, but he definitely seems like the one they veered the farthest away from in terms of being like their comic book counterparts. And that leads me to the dynamic between the team. I thought that worked very well also, and that's one of the biggest things that I loved about the comic book, you know, the banter, the romantic relationships, and everything going on between these groups of kids that find out that their parents may be supervillains. You know, watching all of that, you know, I kind of have a soft spot for like teen dramas and stuff like that, and that kind of comes off in here very well. And I thought they did, for a lot of parts, they did pretty good on the team dynamics. And to bring it back to the characters and the acting, the parents, they did something interesting with them this time around. And like I said, there's spoilers in here, but they make the parents a lot more sympathetic in this show, to the point where you actually kind of end up hearing a lot about their characters, and you know, they have their own little relationships that are going on within the Pride that they go different ways with it that you don't really expect, and sometimes they work, and it actually is kind of interesting, and it does make the parents a bit more of a character rather than just the evil supervillains that the kids have to face off against. And that's something I guess the comic book did. They were kind of just the bad guys. But in this one, you kind of understand where they're coming from and why they're doing what they're doing. You do understand that in the comic book, but this one gives, I guess, sort of a bit more of a reason for them not to be quite so just evil. You know, they're not just supervillains in this show. They're actual parents that really do care about their children. They don't just want to murder them after a while, you know what I'm saying? They really do care about their children. And that's a plus, you know, they really try to develop the parents a lot more as characters. And that was something that was appreciated most of the time. I don't know, and I guess this is where we'll transition over to the negatives, because they went way too freaking far with it. And you know what? Yeah, that is where we're gonna start off the negatives, because they spend way too much time on the parents in this show. On the parents. I did not come to the Runaways show to see what the parents were doing every other episode. I swear to God, I would say that the parents have at least 50% of the screen time in the show. And I'm not saying that to be, exaggerate anything. It may be a slight difference. They might have slightly less time, but I feel like they have a pretty equal amount of time, and in some episodes, probably more time than the children. The show, I feel like, lost its focus. Moving on past the first few episodes, it completely lost its focus and diverted to being more about the parents and understanding why they're doing what they're doing, and getting so lost in this whole Gaborum, Pride, Jonah mystery stuff that honestly had nothing really to do with the Runaways and figuring out that their parents were evil and having to fight against their parents. It contributed really nothing to that. And it just, I think that's just indicative of what really bothered me throughout most of the show, because the whole time we're building up, okay, Nico's dad is cheating on Nico's mom with Chase's mom and all this other stuff, and that's all distracting from all the other kid stuff. But a lot of the time, the kid stuff is almost as uninteresting as what the parents are going through. The kids keep on, and it feels like the show is adding just a lot of filler in between so that it justifies having a 10-episode run. You know what I mean? It's like you have a situation where Gert and Carolina will talk to each other and they'll be cool, and then Gert will see Carolina talking to Chase, who she likes, so she hates Carolina now, and then we'll see them be cool again, and then Gert finds out Carolina's a lesbian, so she's not even interested in Chase, but then when she sees them talking again, she's still mad at Carolina, and I'm like, why are we going through this? We just went through this, and it'll continue throughout the entirety of the 10 episodes, and it won't be until like episode 9 where Gert finally reveals her feelings and yada yada yada. It takes way too long. We know some of this stuff is going to happen. Why don't we just cut to the chase? Why are we still continuing on with this for 10 whole episodes saying, oh, I love you now, oh, you like her, oh, it went on way too long. Again, with the kid stuff, when I first saw the first 2 or 3 episodes, I saw that they went to high school. I don't think that was ever in the comic book, and I thought that was a really interesting way to introduce the characters. I thought the way they introduced them was perfect, was phenomenal. But they continue on with the high school stuff, that Chase is on the lacrosse or some other kind of sports team, or soccer, football team, something like that. That, all the kids get bullied sometimes, and Molly wants to try out for cheerleading, but the kids are bullying her, and now she's the team manager or something like that, who has to clean like all the shit. And it's like, why are we spending time on this? We know the kids are gonna run away. None of this means anything. You know what I mean? Like, I was honestly really surprised when on episode 2, they went back to the house. After they find their parents doing the whole thing, it goes the way you would expect the first episode to go. They find the parents. Episode 2 starts off, they run. Now, they don't run away. They run back into the house to play it off like they didn't see anything. Now, I gotta say, when I first saw that, I was surprised, but I liked that, because I was like, that's the realistic option. first off, they don't show their parents brutally murdering somebody with a knife like I think they do in the comic books. They just put them in a pod, and they think they killed them, but they can't really be sure. And I was like, that's still the smartest way, because as a kid, you're not gonna just completely run away. You may, but it makes sense that kids who don't really know anything but their parents, who live in, you know, this comfort life in California, they might just, you know, end up going back to their parents and trying to see, you know, how to handle the situation. They might not just automatically think to run away. I thought I was fine with that. But then episode 3 came around. Okay, now the episode barely focused on the kids. We're focused on the parents. Okay, episode 4. All right, they're still not running away. They're still trying to figure out a way to do this. All right, but well, now it's episode 5. We're halfway through the season. They have to run away. They don't run away. Instead, we bring back the father's side plot with him being in prison and his ex-prison buddy and the construction yard shit. All right, episode 6. They gotta run away now, right? Nope. Episode 7, come on. I mean, the season's almost over. Nope. Episode 8, this gotta happen. Nope. Episode 9? Come on, they gotta have at least one episode of them running away. 5? Nope. Episode 10, the season finale. They finally run away. It took them 10 episodes for them to run away. What took them in one comic book issue the night after. The night after. And in 10 whole episodes, it takes them to run away. And it's no surprise that the 10th episode is probably the best one. Because that's the one where they actually come up with a plot to get captured by the church or brought in by the church. Then they make a plot to go break Carolina out. That stuff was the perfect stuff. And they were all inside the camp. And not the camp, but they were all inside the truck in the park, and you know, they all had to sleep in one truck, and you know, they were being together, they were being a team. They weren't trying to do the whole undercover thing, and they weren't, you know, focusing on all the artificial drama and stuff like that. It's like that was what I wanted to see the whole show be. And instead they waited until the final episode, and not even really the entirety of the final episode. I mean, the final episode also, it didn't even feel like a final episode. It felt like it was like I was waiting for next week. There was nothing big that happened in the episode. Jonah's still out there. We didn't make any major moves on the villain. I mean, like, it felt like it was just like a mid-season finale, and not even that, because mid-season finales are typically big. This didn't feel big at all. It just felt like another episode. And they run off in a really cool shot, and it's like, okay, yeah, they're finally running away. But really? You had to wait an entire season to get that moment? What the fuck was I doing this whole time? I honestly feel like I could have watched the first maybe 3 episodes, and then maybe watch like the last 2, and I'd be caught up right to speed. I know exactly what was going on and everything that I need to know. Because they don't, how do you have a show called The Runaways and they never run away? And how do you have a season finale that doesn't mean anything, that's just, I mean, things happen, but it's not exciting. You don't feel like, whoo, man, that was intense. I can't wait for next season. You don't even have that feeling. You feel like, is that it? Is that it? I expected something more. That's about the biggest problem with the show. It took way too long for anything to freaking happen. You know what I mean? Like, nothing happened at the end. We are at, and I hate comparing things to the comic books, and that was just me talking straight off the brain, just watching it as a television show. I felt like the show took way too much time to build up to stuff that just really kind of amounted to kind of very meh. It almost felt like we only watched half a season, and now we gotta wait another year for another one. Yeah, it took way too long, and that's me without comparing it to the comic book series. But when you actually look at what the comic book series was, and I hate to do this because I guess if you look at any real comic book adaptation, kind of movie, TV show, whatever, that's done, the comic book version is way different than the actual movie or television show version. I mean, you could look at the Winter Soldier storyline in Captain America Winter Soldier and probably say there's a bunch of differences. You could look at Just going off the top of my head, any of the MCU films, you know what I mean, and the characters, probably any of the Netflix Marvel series like Luke Cage, Daredevil, Punisher, and they're probably wildly different than some of their comic book adaptations had them be. However, I don't know, I just think they you know, the things that were changed from the comic book to the TV show, they just weren't amazing. And I'm not talking about casting or anything like that. I thought the casting was fine. I don't mind that certain characters are different than what they were before, like the whole Chase and Molly thing. I don't mind that. That was fine. That was something I got used to, and I honestly, those characters I really liked. But certain things like the parents not actually being the villains, because they're not. Jonah, this other character that's played by the guy who played Victor Von Doom in the old Fantastic Four films, he is the main villain. And he's coercing the parents into kind of doing this evil thing. The parents actually don't have any clue of what they're doing. They don't know what the hell's going on. They just know they got coerced into joining this group called the Pride by this rich guy called Jonah who has some kind of mystical powers, and they're afraid of what will happen if they say no. That's it. So the parents aren't evil. The Runaways are really fighting, I guess, Jonah? I don't know. Then why not just go home? It's like, I don't really know. I don't know. I always thought that was the appeal of the Runaways comic book. That the Runaways are the children of supervillains, like actual bona fide supervillains, and they fought against that. You know what I mean? Like, even if you look at what the parents are in this series versus what the supervillains are inside the comic book, they're just 110% different. I mean, Nico's mom, she has like wizard tech or whatever. She has a company that's called Wizard. And in the comic book, her and her husband are both dark wizards, so I guess that's the link. In the comic book, Gert's parents are time travelers. That's why they have the dinosaur. They're not just scientists. You know what I mean? Like, the parents seem so harmless. And it's like, that's, I don't know. I don't want to say like they should have been the villains of the show. And, you know, because I think things change all the time. But I don't know. What's the point of having the Pride if they're kind of the good guys? You know what I mean? And it's not like they changed it so that I'm radically like in love with the parents' characters. I just felt like it distracted from the kids. And they're not as cool as they were. That's the trade-off. The parents were developed more as characters, but it also made them extremely more boring. They're not as one-dimensional as being just these bad guys, but they also, none of them are really that cool. Yeah, Alex's dad is sort of like he was in the other one where he kind of headed a mafia family, but in the comic book, he like was legit the head of like the mafia, and in this one he kind of just ran a street gang. You see what I'm saying? And then the mom wasn't even on it; she was just a lawyer. You know what I'm saying? Like I said before, time travelers versus scientists. What was Chase's parents again? I think they were mad scientists. And I guess they kind of kept that here as well. And he was also sort of a time traveler. But again, mad scientist versus, you know, abusive husband who, you know, also happens to be a scientist, but he's not really that crazy. He's just, you know, sort of just abusive. You know what I mean? Like all this stuff is like just deflated versions. Molly's parents in this one, they killed them off. First off, in the comic books, they're mutants, and in this one, they killed them off. I guess to add to this whole Gaborum thing, this whole Church of Gaborum mystery. Also, they spend a huge amount of time dedicated to the Church of Gaborum, and you know, a whole weird mystery, sort of cultish sort of stuff going on with there. Carolina has an actual dad who's Jonah, and then you know, the other dad who's Frank, and that's, you know, he used to be an actor. And again, they just spend way too much time on all this other stuff when really we should be focusing on the teens coming together and having to fight against their parents. That was the coolest thing about the original comic book series, that these kids all came together, used their parents as tech and stuff like that to fight their supervillain parents against all odds. That's what drew me to the comic book. And it seems like, to me, they completely missed the mark. That's the thing. When you make changes to the story and to the characters and whatnot, that's why certain casting changes, like making one character a different race or a different age or a different sort of look, it doesn't really hurt me as much, because I look for what's the core of the storyline and what's the core of, you know, why this character's like this or what they're going up against and the fight between these two characters. And I feel like they missed the core of that. They missed the core of, you know, these teenagers fighting against their parents. These teenagers all being the children of supervillains. They use that and they connect through that. And that was what I always thought was great. And I think they really just missed that fact. Now, and I may talk about this more in a second. However, I'm just saying that I don't want this show to be canceled or anything. They already got a season 2 and I'm super glad. But I also think whoever the showrunner was, whoever the writers were, they need to be replaced. I strongly believe that. I think the casting, everything else was perfect. I think the person who wrote the series and who ran the series, the showrunners for it, need to be fired immediately. They need to get somebody from the Marvel Netflix universe, except for Iron Fist. They need to get Punisher, Luke Cage, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, somebody from one of those shows. They need to bring them all to this project, because this show, and I've seen other shows like this, where, you know, I see the potential in it. I know the Runaways story, so I know there's potential to tell amazing stories. But you need the right people to bring those stories to life. You know what I mean? Like, I know you can do it. And I've seen other shows that have had rough seasons. Every show has a rough season. Ask the CW that. CW's had amazing seasons, they've had terrible seasons. One show that comes to mind when I thought about this, Gotham. Gotham was a show that started off and I was kind of like, this is okay. I don't know. I mean, kind of, how long can you really keep this going? Young Bruce Wayne, young villains. I don't know how this is gonna end up. And that was the first season, you know, it was like they kind of did a villain of the week sort of thing. Didn't really work out the best in my opinion, and I think to a lot of other fans. And I think they really took the fan feedback, they understood it, and they said, you know what, season 2, we're changing things up. And I loved season 2, and I love season 3, and they continually came back and brought the heat, and they really knew where to bring the show afterwards. And I think they could do that with this show if they get better writers and a better showrunner. I really think they can. I see the potential. I want this show to do super well. And again, there were things that I did like about it. It's just for something that I feel so passionately about in terms of the comic books, I just wanted the show to be a bit better. That's it. I'm not saying it was a terrible show. Overall, I'd probably give this show, and I don't really do ratings anymore, but I'd give it about a 7 out of 10. It was kind of just average. But for me, personally, I would have loved, when I feel that powerful about something, I need it to be like up in 8 and 9s. You know, I need to love this show. You know what I'm saying? I kind of just was like okay with this show. It was enough for me to come back and check in every week. There were enough things about the characters, the dynamics that I liked about it. However, overall, I think they just need to really learn from their mistakes this season, pick up some fan feedback, and really come in with some stronger, better writers. Now that we're finally on the run with these kids, maybe we can finally get to those storylines that we really liked in the comic books and come up with some new ones and really just get the ball rolling. You know, fight the pride for once, you know, stop with all the bull with Jonah and the mystery of the Gabborim Church. That's not what the Runaways is built upon. You know what I mean? Just get them into action. For Christ's sakes, just get the ball rolling. Again, don't want the show to end. I'm so glad that Runaways is in the forefront again, that they're getting season 2, that, you know, renewed interest with a TV show equals renewed interest with the comic book series that I just ordered the other day. Yes, it'll be coming soon. And you know what I'm saying? Some Runaways is better than no Runaways. And I remember a long ass time where the comic book was on hiatus. We didn't know what was going on with the movie. It just seemed like Runaways was dead in the water. So to see all of this come back with comic books, you know, there's videos coming out about it. Now there's a TV show. It's such a great time to be a Runaways fan. And I don't want that to go anytime soon. So I want them to continue with this TV show. I just want them to get better with the TV show. I think that there were some good things that they had. They capitalized on those good things, get rid of some of the fat, and then come back with some better writers, maybe a better showrunner. I think this show will blow my mind. I think that we could possibly get somewhere like we did, like I said before, with Gotham, where Gotham's first season was kind of weak, and then when they came back season 2, season 3, it was one of my favorite shows at the time. I think we can definitely get somewhere like that with the Runaways show. And I love Runaways, and I want to love this TV show. So, unfortunately, I kind of just thought the show was average. I don't know. I'm hoping that in a year, and also, knock it off with this Hulu nonsense. Every week, What do you think this is, cable? I have to wait a week. And I was so confused when I got to episode 3 on the first few days, and I couldn't go to episode 4 because it wasn't out yet. I was like, what in the hell is all this? I'm so used to Netflix, the Marvel Netflix series, where the show comes out and I can binge watch all 10, 11, 12, 13 episodes. Somehow I was up on episode 3 and I was just so confused as to where the hell the rest of the episodes were. I was scouring through Hulu. Listen, I don't know if that's a Hulu thing, if maybe you have to move it back to Netflix to get that up, because that's not working for me. The fact that I started this show back in November and it's January and I'm just now finishing it, that's a problem, okay? That is a problem. I do not want to have to go through that again. I like my shows given to me all at once. Just give it to me all at once. Let me just binge watch it. Let me just run through it, okay? This whole Hulu thing is not working for me, okay? Let's get the ball rolling, all right? But again, guys, in all seriousness, get that shit on Netflix. But no, seriously, I just thought the show was average. But that's just my opinion. I'm sure you guys got your own. Let me know in the comment section down below. What did you guys think of the first season of Runaways? Did you love it? Did you hate it? As always, guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, guys. Please check me out on my other channel, Director's Jakes, and we got cool skits and short films for you guys, including To Kill a Hero web series that I did not too long ago. Be sure to check that out. I run the channel with my boy Johnny Lee. He has his own channel, JXP Entertainment. Be sure to check that out. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. I'm the Messiah. This is Messiah Entertainment. I will see you guys next time. Peace.